truth, and life. Here is the Brother Leon Show. You better recognize.
What's going on, my listeners? This is your boy, Brother Leon. And you are tuning into another episode of the Brother Leon Show. So let's go on in here. The one thing that I want you guys to be aware of is this. And I've been saying this on TikTok. I want you to follow me. Follow me on TikTok, follow me on YouTube, follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can get the podcast, The Brother Leon Show, everywhere. Apple, Audible, Amazon, Spotify. Any place you get your podcast, you can get me. Also follow Truth and Life Urban Ministry Podcast, because we're going into a new phase of ministry, and pretty soon we're going to start another podcast, and I will give you details of that with a special show. But the one thing that I had talked about on TikTok is this, is that no relationship is exempt from work. And so the one thing that I want you to be conscious of is the fact that no matter where you are in life, no matter who you're with, no matter the status of that person, you're going to have to work. And that's the God knows truth. You are going to have to work to build the relationship. And so the one thing that I want you guys to understand is this, is that the relationship, we're going to use the table model. So two people come together and they say that they want a relationship. They've been talking, they've been dating, and they want to turn it into a relationship, an exclusive relationship, a monogamous relationship. Depending on how you want the relationship, you have to come together, make sure you got the same alignment and values to say, yo, this is what we want to do. So I'll give you the cake analogy. If you want a red velvet cake, you got to get red velvet ingredients. If you want a blue velvet cake, you got to get blue velvet ingredients. If you want a lemon cake, you have to get lemon cake ingredients. Just like if you're building a table, you have to get the materials and the tools and have the know-how on how to use those tools to build the table that you want. And you have to make sure that whatever you are building upon has a good foundation. And that good foundation at times comes from family upbringing. I'm going to say it again. Sometimes the foundation is family upbringing, family values, family structure. And so these are the things that you build the table on. Because the crazy thing about it is that a lot of people build good things, but it's on a messed up foundation. So the foundation has to be strong, just like the table has to be strong. Because if not, if the foundation is not strong, the table will fall. And that's the God knows truth. You can try to get around that all day long. But if the foundation isn't sure, it will fall. And that's the God knows truth. So the one thing that I want you guys to understand is that you have to build on a good foundation. and you come together and you make sure that you have the right tools. The most important tools are, number one, the level, and number two, the tape measure. Because you have to know, okay, how much are we measuring here? How much do we add? How much do we cut? How much do we take away? And then the level. Of course, you're going to have the hammer, the nails, and the saw, the screws, the sandpaper, because you got to smooth them rough edges out when you putting that bad boy together. And then, after everything is completed, then you decorate it, you paint it, you put the varnish on it, the shine on it. But you want to make sure that it's built. You want to make sure that it's built to last. And also, you want to future-proof it just in case you allow other parties to come into the table, such as kids. Because kids are always going to be a part of the table. Kids are always going to be a part of the relationship. Whether you came with kids or whether you have them together, they will always be a part of the table. So you got to make room. Just like you got to make room for daddy, you got to make room for them babies. And that's the God knows truth. And the one thing about the table is that we serve and we sit with one another. It's never about me serving you and I'm giving you all my best stuff and I'm never sitting down. It's never that. But the one thing that I want you guys to understand is that it is about serving one another. That's what it's about. But I'm going to tell you this. Infidelity will never build you what you want. And that's the God knows truth. You can't build off of cheating because, number one, the foundation is jacked up. And you feel as though that, well, you know, I wasn't happy over here, so I'm going over here. And even though it started messed up, everything's going to work out. It's not going to work out. Because in the back of that person's mind or in the back of your mind, there's no trust. You don't trust them all the way because you were cheating. And people judge one another. Guys, they are like this. Some guys are like this. Like, yo, if she's doing this with me, then maybe she'll be doing it with someone else. That's how guys think. Like, if she's doing this with me, I wonder if she did it with anybody else. We think like that. I've thought like that. Like, yo, if she's doing this with me, what is the possibility she could be doing this with somebody else? Because even though we hear the words, I've never done this before, we don't believe it. And that's the God knows truth. We don't believe the words. We don't believe the words. Especially when it's cheating. Especially when that other man knows that you got a man at home or a husband. And vice versa. That other woman will never believe you because she sees you cheating on your wife. She sees you cheating on your girlfriend. So at the end of the day, she's going to go with her gut feelings, which is, I can only trust him but so far. And if he's cheating on her, then eventually he'll cheat on me. So I'm telling you right now, the grass may be greener on the other side, but the reason why the grass is greener on the other side is because you don't have no investment or sweat equity in the soil. That's why it looks good, because you ain't been over there with your tools tilling that land, causing something to grow. Because the one thing about relationships is this: relationships should be about adding and multiplying. You go through seasonal change. You go through physical change. You go through mental change, financial change, sexual change, career change. And these are the cycles of life. These are the things that we go through. And the crazy thing about it is that we feel as though that the same way that I met them, they should be that way all the time. No, people change. Whether they change for the better or whether they change for the worse, change is inevitable. And that's the one thing that I want you to see. Because we feel as though that it's always going to be spring and summer in the relationship. No, my friend, you could be in Africa and Africa still has a rainy season. You can be in Australia and they have a rainy season. I don't care where you go on this globe, the seasons change. And that's the God knows truth. We expect everything to be like it is without even looking at that person, the humanity of that person, and realizing, yeah, they will change. And if you don't give people grace to embrace their full humanity with change, then you are going to be disappointed. And that's the God knows truth. Because too many of us have based our love life and relationships off of what we see on social media, off of what we see in these rom-coms, Tyler Perry movies. And then we expect it to be like this. Nothing is going to be like The Princess Bride. Nothing is going to be like a Tyler Perry movie. And the crazy thing is, man, we feel as though that, oh, it needs to be like what I see on social media. No. You never base your relationship off of celebrity couples because you don't know what they got. It could be a sham. They just putting up appearances because when you're in that life, you always have to wear a mask. But when it comes to your life, you can't take that art or that celebrity and bring it into your home and expect success. And that's the God knows truth. I don't care if they've written a book. I don't care if they're out here coaching people. What works for one person's relationship may not work for yours. I don't care if it's your favorite couple. I don't care if it's T.D. Jakes and his wife. Seriously. I don't care if it's Shawnee O'Neal and Pastor Keon. What works for them works for them. And so you got to get to the place where you and your significant other are willing to put in the work. You got to make up in your mind what you want. Because what you want has to be laid out. This is the reason why contractors have blueprints. This is the reason why engineers are hired, because number one, we want to make sure that when we build it for the future, but we also build it for when the seasons change. We build it to take pressure. And that's what your relationship table should be about. For the future and able to take pressure. Because there's going to be things that's going to pressure your relationship. And you need to make sure beyond a shadow of a doubt that you can take the pressure, the financial pressure, the sexual pressure, the pressure of being a father, the pressure of being a mother, the pressure of being a husband, the pressure of being a wife, the pressure of having to come through, the pressure to meet demands. Because when you are in a relationship and when you have a family especially, there will be demands. And that's the God knows truth. And the demands are different on men and women. And the way we respond is different as well. So the crazy thing is that get out of your mind on how your partner is supposed to respond. You're not them. They're not you. Seriously, ladies, your man is not going to respond the way you think he should respond. That's how you think it. Guys, she's not going to respond the way that you think sometimes. You can't take and put the way that you think on her. And you can't put the way that you think, ladies, on him. He's not going to think the way that you think. He's not going to communicate the way that you communicate. Seriously. Men and women are different when it comes to communication. And that is the one thing that you have to realize beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I think a lot of times good women give up good men because they feel as though he should be like me, but be the male version. It's not going to work. If you want somebody like you, then maybe you need to be by yourself, because nobody is going to be just like you. And that's the God knows truth. Because you have to ask yourself and be honest, would you date you? Would you accept what you putting out? Seriously. Because the one thing I'm going to tell you is this. There are a lot of people who basically, they know they wouldn't accept certain things, but they expect people to accept it from them. And that's not fair. But the one thing I realize is that life is not fair. And so this is the reason why you have to ask yourself, am I willing to leave this relationship? And a lot of us, man, we are afraid so much of being by ourselves that even though it's toxic, even though it's abusive, we will stay in a bad relationship. The relationship is not meeting my needs, so we'll stay in it because we are afraid of being alone. And the fear of loneliness is what drives a lot of people, because the fear brings in the scarcity, and then we feel as though that there's no good men or women out here. You know, all these niggas ain't shit. All these women are bitches. All these men are hoes. And the crazy thing is that that's not the whole collective. Might be your experience, but it's not everybody's experience. You know, so the crazy thing is that we fall into that trap of believing somebody's individual experience and thinking that the whole collective is like that. That person might have ate 5 bad apples, but that don't mean all apples are bad. That person might have got food poisoning 6 times, but that don't mean that all food is bad. Sometimes you got to learn how to pick. Sometimes you got to learn how to choose. A lot of people's choosers are broken because we only allow visual. Man, it's getting to the place now, yo, the visual is good, but you got to make sure that the internal make. What's internally inside that person is going to be something that you can accept and deal with for the rest of your life. And you have to make sure that if that person doesn't change, am I willing to still stay? Because a lot of us, man, we are in relationships because of potential. They have the potential to be great. They have the potential for this. And then we fall in love with the imagination of that person, not knowing that, hey, we put a time clock on a lot of things and we don't even let that person know. So we give them about a year or 2 or even a decade. And because they haven't changed, now we leave them for no reason. But the crazy thing is that you've never spoken. And a lot of people are in the habit of having needs that are never spoken. With that person, the other person that they're with, oh, they just supposed to know. How is a person supposed to know? So this is the reason why, you know, when I put on TikTok that phrase, what are we doing? I did that video, so check it out. Because that is the question, what are we doing? Because the crazy thing is that when somebody asks that question, that means they need clarity. That basically means they need some type of direction. They need to know where the relationship is going. And so I'm going to tell you right now, avoid those type of people who don't want to give you any type of direction but want the benefit. They want the benefit of husband. They want the benefit of wife. They want the benefit of boyfriend. They want the benefit of girlfriend, but they don't want to call it nothing. I'm not trying to tell you don't get married. You can get married without the government. You can have contracts laid out and you can have a vow ceremony unto yourselves. And that's the God knows truth. But if you decide to get married, you better make sure that that man wants to be a husband and potentially a father. You have to make sure that that woman wants to be a wife, because there's definitely a difference between a woman and a wife. You're born a woman, but you become a wife. You're born a man, but you become a husband. And so the crazy thing is that you might be born something. You're never born a husband. You're never born a wife. You're trained and groomed to be a husband or a wife. And these things are taught at home. And this is the reason why I tell you about foundation. Because if you're going to be a good husband, you're going to have some foundational truths. And it will be best that you come from a good family. But there are people that came from bad families and have been excellent husbands and excellent wives. Even though they came from a speckled past, a family that was questionable, they turned things around. But they did the work. One thing that I'm going to tell you is this, and then I'm going to stop, is that no relationship is exempt from work. You can have sex all day long, but you still got to work. And the sex could be blazing. You can have money and be able to trip all over the globe. Passport stamps all over the globe. But it's still, even though you're doing all that, you still have to work. Because after a while, a relationship need is going to come up. And a trip is not going to save it. Money is not going to save it. A bag, a massage, some blazing sex is not going to save it. So this is the reason why you have to begin to do the work. Because we could buy things all day long. And the crazy thing is that relationships have become transactional. But what happens when you get bankrupt? What happens when it gets cut off? What are you going to do? So this is the reason why I'm telling you, you got to make sure that you are aligned with a person that you can work with. Because if you can't work with that person, then you can't build with that person. And that's the God knows truth. You have to have values that are in alignment. You have to have love that is in alignment, because love is not enough for a relationship. Love is not enough for a marriage. Love is not enough for a family. So I want you guys, beyond a shadow of a doubt, to hear what I'm saying. And that's the God knows truth. That's the God knows truth. You got to get this. So, hey, I'm done for the day. You guys be blessed.
Walk in the truth that makes you free every day. Follow Brother Leon on all social media outlets.